final presentation for Innovation and National Security. This is our third year. We're super excited that we have so many students, and even more excited that we have so much community and sponsor participation. We started out 3 years ago with 2 teams and 4 students, and we were in this tiny little office in Atkinson Hall, and here we are. So, but without support from problem sponsors, community influencers and leaders, and of course, OIC, we could not come this far. So I'd first like to bring Paul Robin. He is Associate Vice Chancellor for Commercialization and Innovation, and he's actually the sponsor for the program in this field.
Well, thank you, Rachel. You know, she always wants me to talk, and I'm the least interesting person in this room. But anyways, so I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks to Rachel for doing this program, and all the other people, all of you guys out there who put this program together. This is actually now one of the most successful programs of its type in the country, I think, right? It may be the biggest one of its type in the country, yeah. Which is fantastic. It's partly because we have such cool students who come along with some pretty incredible ideas, so I'm really interested to see what you came up with. But also because of the community support that we get. We get such huge support across not just here in San Diego, but beyond. So thank you to all of our guests here tonight, and all of you who brought problems, who supported the teams in any way. This whole program, you know, just to sort of talk at the university a little bit, this fits into this drive that we have to engage with the community more. You know, we really want to engage with the community to develop the innovation workforce, to develop technologies to make a better future for everybody. And this is right in the middle of all that. And in fact, you're sitting in the building, which is kind of the stake in the sand that we have, you know, for this. We put this building here specifically to do this kind of stuff. So we spent $70 million on this thing so that we could have the community and ourselves coming together to develop people, talent, technologies, ideas, solutions, etc. So this really is the culmination of all that, and I thank you guys for making it all happen. What else should I say?
That's great. Thank you.
Do I need to thank anybody else?
Thank our
boss. I don't actually know what I'm doing up here.
if you could thank the Miramar sponsor, Colonel Bedell is here.
Bedell is here.
Yeah.
Fantastic to
Yes.
have you and your far more interesting wife. No, but it's really great to have all you guys here. And I just wanted to congratulate all the students on doing all of this, and you know, I'm really interested to see what you guys come up with. And with that, I'm going to sit down.
Oh, thank you so much.
So you guys are all in for a treat because we have a commanding officer in of Miramar. So I think I told you all a story. I was my first duty station was at NAS Miramar. So it's kind of a, you know, all these years now I'm working with MCA at Miramar. It's been really a great journey for me too. So Colonel Bedell has been a huge sponsor for i4NS, thank you, sir. And without him and support of people like Rich and Ben Hogan and everybody else, Colonel Early, this problem set that we've done this year would not been possible. So Colonel, if I could ask you to come up here and say a little bit about what we're talking about, localization of, you know, collaboration between community and police.
Of course.
Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Colonel Marty Bedell. I'm the Air Station Commander over at Miramar. I am incredibly excited to be here with you all today. And first of all, thank you very much for the work that you're doing. I thought it might be a little bit interesting just to, maybe if I put myself in your shoes, you might be thinking like, all right, so what do I have to offer? You know, I'm taking a class and I'm thinking about some stuff, and then suddenly, why is the Marine Corps so interested in what you're doing? And I'll explain exactly why the Marine Corps is so interested in what you're doing and what you're thinking. It's because we haven't figured a whole bunch of really important things out. We've tried. We've got some solutions that sort of work. We've got solutions that worked really well 20 years ago, but they aren't working very well now. And we've got problems we're facing in a very rapidly changing environment that we haven't even started to try to figure out. So having your brains And your perspectives, your backgrounds that are unique and new and different, thinking differently and broadly is incredibly helpful and really exciting. Miramar is an air station, so it's an aircraft carrier, basically. It doesn't go very fast. We've got 200 aircraft, we've got 10,000 Marines and sailors, we've got families that live there. We've got to take care of all those people, and we've got to support the mission of all of the units that operate there so that they can deploy in defense of our nation's freedom. So what you're doing and the problems you're thinking about and grappling with are critically important. Being able to collaborate with a diverse bunch of minds is how you get to the best solutions. What I've discovered in the last 22 months is oftentimes we don't have enough attention paid to figuring out the problem. We might think we understand the problem, but we don't. And so we start working on a solution. Maybe there's a technology that we could slap on there and solve it. And wait, hold on. We might need to step back and think about this. And so having a fresh perspective, having a bunch of questions about things that you've maybe never seen before is super helpful. It can be a little intimidating at first, but I think all of the questions at the beginning, the problem framing, the thinking about how we're thinking is really, really important. And I'm super excited to hear about what you all have been grappling with. The collaboration opportunities to connect with students and university, to connect with business, to connect with other entities within DoD, that broad stakeholder group, that diverse team of people with different perspectives is how we get to good solutions. I'll give you one quick example just to plant some seeds, and I am wide open for business. If anybody wants to come to Miramar and try anything, get a tour, see what we do there, and look around, I would love to host you. Air show, 22 to 24 September. If you're in town, I would really love for you to come and see the air show and see the innovation and technology expo that we're having associated with that. But I'll give you a quick example, and then I'm looking forward to hearing about your projects. So, in trying to understand the importance of certain things that don't seem important, I have been grappling with the barracks. Who lives in the dormitory? Anybody live in the dorm? Is it like really awesome or sort of awesome? Not that awesome. Well, I happen to have the great good fortune of having the least crappy barracks in the Marine Corps, which is not good. They're not good, but they're better than most other barracks. So from the Marine Corps standpoint, they're like, yours aren't that bad. Well, they aren't good enough. But the reason why I bring up the barracks is I think that there's something really important about where you live and the relationship you have with yourself and what you're trying to do, how you feel about yourself, whether you're rested, or if you don't have hot cold running water or your toilet's exploding, like that doesn't really free up your mind to be thinking about good things. So for Marines, they need to work really hard. We have maintainers who are working tirelessly to try, well, they get tired, but they're working very, very hard to maintain the aircraft. We have aircrew that need to be rested, they need to study, they need to learn their craft and trade, and they need to go out and fly missions. So where you live and whether or not you will feel like you're in a safe place where you can regenerate yourself, that's really important. So if the barracks is really important and it's not where it needs to be, how do we do something that seemingly seems pretty simple? We just got to fix the things that are broken, right? We just got to get it sort of nice enough that it's good enough. It's not as easy as that. Come to find out that as we looked at this and pulled it apart, the problem we're trying to solve is much more complex. We could fix a part of the problem, but it wouldn't fix the barracks. We could fix all the things that are broken, but if we don't fix the system that fixes them, then they're just going to break and then they'll be broken. So things like having social scientists, like my wife, thinking about some of these things, having a diverse group of specific maintenance experts who can talk about the way maintenance requests get put in, all of this stuff, it actually comes down to people. Do you have the right people to administer this system? Do you have the right people to maintain the system? Do you have the right people to analyze the supplies you will need and the contracts you will need? it suddenly gets to be sort of very, very complex. So thinking about how you would solve this, starting with a blank dry erase board, and let's see if we can pull this thing apart and figure it out. So we're wrestling with that. What seems to be a fairly simple problem, and as we pull it apart, there's all kinds of big sub-problems that if we don't fix all of them to some extent, the whole thing isn't going to work. So I throw that out there as both an example and also a challenge, and to suggest that sometimes things that don't seem like they're all that exciting or sexy, the jets flying around are cool. The helicopters, absolutely amazing. Barracks, whether or not the toilets work, equally amazing to me. I think that's important. And you could make a compelling pitch, and I'm making it right now, that getting those things correct, getting them right, getting them fixed, directly translates to the Marines and the sailors being able to perform their warfighting mission. So jet flying and the maintenance that is required there is connected to these other parts of the system that also need to be optimized. And having you all thinking about all sorts of aspects of this, from the maintenance of the aircraft and the efficiency of how we're doing that, how we're managing our time, how we're managing our people, the analysis we're doing on the workforce, critically important and often neglected. So it's an exciting time. Things are changing quickly. There's a lot of opportunity with technology, but getting to the people part of it, the human-centered design part of it, I'm realizing has to be the start. You've got to figure out what is the human being inside of the system being asked to do, and then you have to explore that out. So really excited and inspired to be here. The only other time I've been here, this has been empty, and they're like, this is where all the smart people come and they do all the thinking. And now I'm in a room with all the smart people doing all the thinking. So it's really inspiring to be here with you, and I look forward to hearing about your project. So thank you very much.
We're happy to know that the Derek problem is going to be on the docket for the spring quarter.
That's great.
So, and then Professor Thomas, Master Chief.
Really? You
Yes.
want, the last thing you want, you just heard from the boss. The last thing you need is some flake over from GPS to talk to the group, but,
Small remark.
what's that?
Small remark.
Yeah, well, the first team that you're gonna see is, the team that I probably did not help. Okay, I was supposed to be their mentor for 10 weeks. They routinely come up to my office and they said, you know, Thomas, you are actually making what was a fairly straightforward problem worse. But they, you know, to their credit, and I think this you'll see with most of the teams and the problems that were provided by the Marine Corps over at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, it sent them all on this journey. And if nothing else, to the Colonel's point, to the boss's point, we at least now can start to identify the problem after 10 weeks. And Rich, you know, I think that's B+ in my book, at least. So I think you're going to see that with all the groups. Is that, hey, at the end of the day, do we have a tangible fix? Some of them will, but most of them, at least in true academic fashion, are going to try to pitch you a follow-on study, right? That's what we do. So I think you'll really enjoy it, man. I think my team's first up, right?
They are.
Okay, no pressure.
Chris is a 42-year-old pilot. He is part of Vietnam Squadron, who is based on aircraft carrier, floating in the Indonesian archipelago. Chris and his team have been given a mission to supply 3 islands with humanitarian aid, spanning across several days, jumping from airfield to airfield.
However, as Chris flies his V-22 Osprey during the mission to supply the last island, he is forced to break off and return to the main maintenance port on the aircraft carrier, forcing another V-22 Osprey to deliver the rest of the aid. Question: why was Chris diverted? Why couldn't he finish the mission? What stopped him?
Within this example, there was a specific policy conflict related to the Shannon 72 Island DOT instruction, But our Team Polytactic, has been working on solving etymologic conflict of diversity strategy. Distributed versus carrier, Marine Corps versus Navy, that has been lurking in the background from the moment we began solving this story. As a team, not shy of Chris Osprey, we have jumped from idea to idea. We have flown through cabbage turbulence, base captors, some champions and mentors. We have spoken to people on bloodlines and people with desks and hands-on. But most importantly, as a team, we found through these great experiences, share your views, and see your goals alike. With backgrounds from all over the world and perspectives from people's upbringing and life experience, we undertook this great adventure in these strides with determination to succeed. So we are just free with people to fight pain, but to go beyond it.
Okay, hello everybody. Oh, we are, I don't think it's working. Okay. Oh wait, it's not working. Okay, hello everybody. We are Team Polytactic, and we are very happy to see all of you here to showcase all the hard work that we have done this past quarter. We were able to conduct 28 interviews and 48 stakeholder interactions. Okay, my name is Afnan, and I'm a fourth year International Studies Poli-Sci student.
Hi, my name is Danny Ju, and I'm a first year in Political Science International Relations student.
Hi, I'm Jihan Lan, and I'm a third year economics student.
Hi, I'm Hina Barada, and I'm a third year exchange student from South Carolina, France, New Jersey.
So, I'm Murray Dawson, I'm a third-year transfer, and I study cognitive science with a specialization in design and interaction.
Throughout this program, we are happy to say that we have received immense support from our faculty advisor, Admiral Thomas, and our team mentor, Stuart Balkow. Alongside this, we also had our problem sponsor, Lieutenant Colonel Bossart, who introduced us to the problem, as well as he is the commanding officer of VMM 165, and they work under the Marine Air Group 16, which is significant to our problem in particular because we're working with marine aviation policy issues. During our journey through this program, we had to face many ups and downs, and at times we got frustrated as we were trying to solve the problem. We thought we were getting closer and closer, however, we had to backtrack every time we got a new feedback, and in the beginning we were working with little to no information. So for the first 2 weeks, we only had 3 words to work off of, and that was comprehensive policy resolution. We didn't know what this was going to entail, as this is a very broad concept, but we did know that we would be working with the DoD, so we tried to scope our problem in that arena. We thought that the issue with policy was that it was the way that was written was there was conflict arising from that because of a lack of cross-referencing and or a lack of communication between departments. Therefore, we proposed the idea of a natural language processing tool, which essentially would pinpoint where there was inconsistencies between policies, and then use this to deconflict policy.
So at this point, it all sounds really simple, right? And that way of thinking is reflected in our first mission model canvas, where we focus on the creation and installation of such a software. However, as we would soon come to know from our first beneficiary interview, that there were a few key points that we neglected. So, first of all, we interviewed Master Gunnery Sergeant in McGowan, and he told us that our solution made sense but was complicated to implement. And we realized that we had neglected the experience of personnel who lived under these conflicting policies, and that we needed more information before we could move forward. So, our first big pivot was when we went to the base at MCAS Miramar, and we saw operators, maintainers, planners, and personnel in action. We realized from talking to our problem sponsor that the problem was much bigger than we thought it was. It was more so of distributed aviation versus carrier aviation, the different directions that the Marine Corps and Navy were moving towards in their strategies. As you can see in this graph, both the Marine Corps and Navy are moving towards different modes of aviation. However, they are both governed under the Naval Aviation Maintenance Program, which policy supports the Navy more than it does the distributed aviation of the Marine Corps. Our group specifically focuses on the 72-hour D&T inspection, which conflicts or doesn't allow the Marine Corps to reach the full operational capability or the full potential they can reach under the distributed aviation model.
So we split the conflict into two main problems. The first one is about the rank requirement for maintenance office. Many maintenance offices are not fulfill the ranking requirement to perform certain tasks, and they have a workaround for this by submitting a waiver and let the commanding officers sign them. However, the commanding officers did take on extra responsibility by approving the waivers. And the second problem is the problem we're going to focus on is the 72-hour maintenance requirement. As we just mentioned, it limits the operational opportunities for the squadrons. Although Lieutenant Colonel Bosser have already advocated for change by publishing an article in Marine Gazette, there is no current work around or workflow to propose change. And this is the rule graph. Now we are making the NAM policy for marine aviation, and the market we are going to focus on is readiness and capabilities. We are going to improve readiness by improving capabilities. Here are the volume proposition canvas for maintainers and operators. So the main thing lies that their temps are different. However, as you can see on the graph, they are both suffering from this liability of routine aircraft inspections, and we are going to solve this with our MVP. We have conducted over 30 interviews, and most of the beneficiaries we have interviewed agree that the current NAM policy is not the best for distributed aviation. However, different beneficiaries did have different emphasis on our central problem, and some might think the 72-hour D&T inspection is the main problem, while others think the supply model and the maintenance personnel requirement is the main problem. So we start working our MVP, and this is the part that we struggle the most. We're kind of bouncing around like a sine curve here.
And here starts our MVP journey. So first, we were convinced that we had to come up with a policy change and that it will be easy to do. But then after hearing back from our problem sponsor, we realized that it will be a lot of work and nearly impossible to achieve, as we don't have enough influence to do so, but also that it depends on Navy aviation, which doesn't have a lot of interest in doing so. That's why we identified 3 layers of the problem. So the big problem is that the Navy aviation and Marine aviation have diverging mission goals outlined in Force Design 2030 and in NAMP, causing conflicting policies. And under that, we have the fact that any request for change in NAMP is likely to be neglected. That's why we are right now focusing on facilitating routine aircraft inspections within the 72-hour limit. So we came up with a solution that a waiver could be a good option and a good workaround, but therefore we had to collect more data about it. That's why we thought about conducting a 90 days beta test as VMX1, which is a marine operational test and evaluation squadron. But then our teaching team explained to us that we were going to the wrong path because VMX1 is not for testing policy change. And then we switched to another solution, and we thought about conducting a survey to gather data from maintainers and operators to measure the level, if any, of pain caused by these conflicting policies. And we were really excited about this idea, as we thought that it could help raise institutional awareness and make the operators and maintainers' problems heard and understood at higher levels. But here also, after talking to our problem sponsor, we realized that maybe they could not understand the issue and its extent, so maybe it was not the best solution.
So, with the feedback we received, we knew we still wanted to test the 72-hour D&T inspections. However, in typical academic fashion, we decided to head back to the books and start compiling some more literature and understanding what are better ways we can collect data in order to solve this problem. So, as we went about our research, we came across an age-old classic, a war game. Now, there's different levels to it. It can be tabletop, or it can be massive with million-dollar assets. But for what we needed, we just needed some sort of simulation, or using Google Excel to gather some numbers. So with that new idea, we went out to go pitch it to people with more expertise in this area. And in our literature review, we found Lieutenant Colonel Domchowski, who hosts the Warfighting Society across the Marine Corps. Now, he's out in Quantico, Virginia, but we still sent him an email, hoping he'd get back to us. And within half an hour, he sent an email back saying, "I like it. I'll help you however I can." And with that, he put us in contact with the Krulek Center at the Marine Corps University, which specializes in wargaming. Now, from there, they put us in contact with the Cunningham Group at the Pentagon, which works directly under the Deputy Commandant for Aviation. Now, this small team, the Cunningham Group, we found a champion, Lieutenant Colonel Mulder, who liked our idea and was willing to work with us. So, armed with that new knowledge, we updated our mission model canvas to include the new key partners. You'll see Lieutenant Colonel Domchowski, Major Ian Brown at the Krulek Center, and after we did a little bit more study, we found some think tanks that bought into our idea as well. And you'll see Jocelyn Fleming there, who became a major champion for our problem. Now, as we went about this, we needed to understand visually for ourselves, how does this work? So, although there's a lot of information on the screen here, I encourage you to pay attention to the top part. Initiate, design, develop, and conduct. And these are key parts that we are currently focusing on, especially designing and developing in a way where we can get the data that we want. So that means creating the right parameters so we can present it to our key partners at the Cunningham Group. Now, our current mission model canvas. We've set up some parameters for this test that we are now working with the Cunningham Group on. Some key things are measuring time delayed because of D&T inspections. And we want to use this data and gather it to support a broader study on distributed aviation models and to test whether there's enough data now and current policies really support these future designs that they want. Now, this can be seen in our final version of the mission model canvas by including a key activity of analyzing the case studies and new mission achievement of increasing those V-22 Osprey flight hours. And we put by 2 days we feel is achievable. Now, what's the roadmap? Where does Team Polytactic go in the future? Well, we all agreed we want to continue working on this, but there's some key steps that we need to take. First, applying for grants, because we'll need funding as we go about. The second thing was doing the case study / ops analysis, gathering that supporting data. The third thing is visiting the Pentagon under a sponsorship from the Cunningham Group, which expressed interest to our idea. Now, with all those over, we want to win over our contacts at CNAF so we can actually present this issue to them and we might be able to get change. Now, from there, we want to expand the scope and look at opportunities in the summer so we can continue working on this and help the Marine Corps refine their future design force. We thank you for all your time. It's been a privilege to work in this group. It's been a privilege to have the great teaching staff and have everybody here. Colonel Bedell, we thank you for sponsoring this and giving us this opportunity. And thank you all.
Good. Can you make the loud sound louder or no? That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why it's so quiet.
In weeks 4 to 8 of the project, we encountered the challenge of not receiving responses from our beneficiaries. This made it difficult to gather feedback for our solution, but we approached this challenge by taking a more proactive approach in using multiple channels of communication and by measuring the value of the feedback. Through our persistence and willingness, we were able to establish more connections in the defense industry and learn about the importance of flexibility in the team environment. We looked at value in the multi-disciplinary approach project and had thorough view of the problem at hand. We also gained a better understanding of the control system and come up with an approach, which was incredibly helpful. We were just the estimation internally and made some adjustments based on what we learned through the visits.
So when we found some early direction, we are able to see the initiative and
Sorry. Wait. How do I exit the first? Oh, I pressed escape, but okay. What do I? What? Oh, okay. That's weird. It was delayed. Yeah, this is very loud.
Hi, hello everyone. We are Wave Watch Defense Systems. My name is Caleb Galde, and I'm a first-year mechanical engineering student.
Hello everyone, my name is Brianna, and I'm a cognitive science major with a specialization in design.
Hello everyone, my name is Zaya, and I'm a fourth year computer science student.
Hello everyone, my name is Pablo. I'm a third year management science student, and we'd like to give a special thanks to our problem sponsors, Lieutenant Commander Eric Watkins and Captain Jim Spitler, our team mentor Jim Harvey, as well as our faculty advisor, Rich Gershman.
So our final problem statement had been that the Sector San Diego RECOM needs a full integrated system that identifies and tracks vessels within its enforcement zone and to increase the interception rate of illicit vessels, as well as automating manual labor. So for our timeline, we had been interested in the idea of buoy array communication, and for the following weeks, we have researched more about the limitations that current vessel trackers have. And in weeks 5 through 6, we eventually pivoted to the idea of a situational awareness tool, which led us to interviewing more beneficiaries in the U.S. Coast Guard and Port of San Diego. And we had more insights by having 2 on-base visits with the U.S. Coast Guard in San Diego. So our initial thoughts had been that having an array of buoys that communicates with a land-based system would establish this fully integrated system, as it will allow for communication across buoys as well as account for weather conditions and if there is error in the enforcement zone. If a buoy were to go down, it would enable communication to the land-based system, which will allow for a 30-minute response from the U.S. Coast Guard. So our previous MVPs leading to our final MVP had been, we had considered using a stationary buoy which self-generates power through solar power and wave generation. We have considered cell drones, autonomous vehicles, aerostate blimps, and the situational awareness tool of sea vision. For our narrative arc, we have had a great journey, and we had been first optimistic about our idea, but we had hit some roadblocks where we would have no callbacks and we would have to contact more beneficiaries in order to question about their workflow and the limitations that they face firsthand on a daily basis. We eventually pivoted in week 7 through 8, but we remained optimistic about a new and an improved interface with machine learning identification system. Some quotes from our interviewees that were notable to us in making our final MVP were that their current system and their vessel trackers do not highlight seasonal data, which is predictive patterns of previous vessels, and it does not allow for the feature of zooming in and out. Cameras are slow and glitchy and have low fidelity for the US Coast Guard, and that geofencing would be a great ability to add for our improved interface, as US Coast Guard port operators are not always looking at screens all the time.
So for the first MVP, our initial thought would be an improved voice system, specifically with in-time communication and self-powered cameras. So we will have communication between all the buoys and also with the base as well. So we will also use computer vision algorithms in order to help detect the illicit vessels, and also by applying techniques from machine learning, we'll also analyze the data from the buoys. And also, here are some pictures that we took from the on-base visits. And big thanks to the Lieutenant Commander, Eric Watkins. And since we went to the Coast Guard San Diego base, and then we knew more about the current problem and then the situation, so we updated our final MVP along the way. So we will have more buoys, and also we will use the cameras from them to substitute the 12 cameras, because 6 of them are used in daytime, 6 of them are used at nighttime, and also they have low resolution. So we will also update them with the colored and high resolution cameras. For the software, we will have the improved common operating picture, and also we will enable the dual camera views, because there are only so many screens. So in the right, here's the picture of a single buoy, and we will have a system of buoys. And then in the right, there's the dual screen with video cameras and the satellite view. In the middle, there's the common operating picture, and specifically, we will focus on the risk management, vessel patterns, and onshore camera detection.
So throughout our development of our MVP, we have figured out and learned several things. One of the major points is that sensor costs can be extremely high and very expensive, and that sensors are not necessarily a magic bullet. There are some sensors that can do some things better than others, and some that convey certain information better than others. And then through our MVP, we researched and interviewed many industry experts and many of the local organizations, such as Scripps Institute and Sail Drone, Ocean Arrow, on how they develop and maintain their systems, as well as what goes into their systems as well.
So our MVPs evolved a lot, and we tracked our learning through the mission model canvas on how those evolutions were made. In our first week, we were very confused about what to do with the mission model canvas, and as you can see here, there was very limited information we put on the mission model canvas due to how confused we were in the beginning. I'd like to highlight the beneficiaries. We were really confused about what was defined as beneficiary for our first week, and we put in organizations instead of individuals from those organizations to solve their problems. In week 5, this was our breakthrough point, where we received a lot of potential beneficiaries contacting us for interviews regarding the ship tracking problem. These potential beneficiaries really helped guide our MVP from our first MVP, which was just a buoy system, to our intermediate MVPs, which included things such as a dual screen system, as well as increased capabilities of detecting small vessels such as jet skis and vessels that are not operating with AIS, or automatic identification system for sea vessels. This leads to week 6, where we've made a lot of changes, especially to our value propositions. When we interviewed our beneficiaries, we understood more about what the problem actually was, and we revised our value propositions to match what our beneficiaries were saying. So in the red, we have that it would offer a live tracking system to achieve incident and emergency management to immediately detect suspicious activity, and autonomous drones to aid Border Patrol agents in tracking suspicious subject and decrease human eyes required. And these were color coordinated to the beneficiaries who had this problem the most or who experienced the greatest impact from these problems. We introduced these ideas into our MVP on how to solve those pains as well as create gains for our beneficiaries, and that led to our evolution of our week 6 MVP. So our week 10 MVP is the same as our week 9 MVP, and we're now focusing on deleting key activities and key partners from our mission model canvas. Our learning guided us to add as much information as we could, and right now we're at the point where we're trying to take different approaches to refine our MVP and refine the approaches we take to provide our beneficiaries with a working product. So one thing you might have noticed was that the deployment section for our mission model canvas was pretty consistent throughout our weeks 1 through weeks 10. And in the beginning, we had a pretty strong grasp of what deployment looked like, which allowed us to contact other key partners and key resources seen here to develop our final MVP that was talked about earlier.
So in the way which we plan on deploying our product is outlined here. So the U.S. Coast Guard has about $13 million in total budget, with $11 million going to net discretionary funding. And in order for our product to go into deployment, we would need to go through the Coast Guard Office of Innovation, which is where they accumulate all their new technologies and companies that want to help out the Coast Guard. For prototyping, manufacturing our product, we can go through many avenues, mainly through being in partnership with current existing technologies such as sail drone and ocean aero, so that we can utilize the technology that they have and then add our own technology on top of it. We can also go through startup accelerators such as Start Blue over here at UCSD, which specializes in marine technologies and funding them. Once we are done creating a prototype, we'll send it to testing and evaluation from the Research and Development Center for the U.S. Coast Guard, as well as the Service Force Logistics Center for the U.S. Coast Guard. Once they have evaluated our product and deem it fit for deployment, we can get it certified and procured by the Acquisition Directorate of the U.S. Coast Guard, as well as the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. So what was the main things we learned and what was targeted by our system? Lesson number one was that interconnectivity is vital to the success of a mission. Since we are dealing with individuals, having those individuals being able to talk with each other, communicate with each other, being able to send data back and forth with ease is very vital to the success of a mission. And lesson number two builds on top of that, because data processing is the backbone of modern security systems. You may have like all the sensors in the world, but if you can't process it correctly or can't process it and condense it down to a human readable form and something that a person can understand, then you're just not going to succeed. Lesson number three was to reduce the influence of the human implementations of it on a system, because beforehand it was very manual. It was very heavy on. It was a very heavy workload on the U.S. Coast Guard, personnel, because they were just looking on screens all day and they might not know which screen to look to, or something might slip by them and they might not catch at least a vessel through that. And lesson number four is that you're not alone in your pursuit of a problem, because through our research, we find that many different companies are working on this exact same problem, and collaborating with them and figuring out where we can fit ourselves into this puzzle is really beneficial to not only to us, but also to the US Coast Guard as well. And one thing I want to highlight from this slide is that the benefits of our system is that the US Coast Guard can now focus less on the manual work because it will all be automated through our system, and having a better data feed and user experience through our software can really help their efficiency and increase the amount of vehicles intercepted. Looking ahead, it's we can look into possible future research into what else they need to what other problems they need to deal with, as well as giving our research to do the Sector San Diego themselves in order for them to take ownership of this problem. And, thank you for this presentation.
Hello, my name is I'm a third-year PhD student at the Engineering Department here at UC San Diego.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassie. I'm a junior biomedical student here at UCSC.
Hello, my name is Rodney Quinn, and I'm a third-year mechanical engineering major at UC San Diego.
Hi, my name is Veronica Todd.
Mostly because I was interested in learning how the military here works.
I wanted to participate in this program because I'm excited for a chance to get to solve a real-life problem.
I actually included this program from Austin. Shout out to Austin and the crowd. I don't know where you are, but you're the one that got me interested in this program.
I devoted 10 weeks of my life to this program because I was interested in actually affecting national security.
How to approach the issue, investigate the solution by forming and testing the hypothesis.
What did I learn? I learned a lot, actually. There's a lot of acronyms in the military, so it took a long time for me to, on the uphill, learn the different acronyms and how to appropriately address officers and enlisted crew.
Feeling well. The way I was feeling throughout this project was mainly discovery and excitement for me to visit the military bases.
Team active duty are kind of frustrated from week 6 to week 9 because our beneficiary are out for training and we can't really reach out for them for interviews and feedbacks.
It's crazy to see that as a mechanical engineering major, when I came into this problem statement, I thought it was going to be a purely mechanical issue, and coming out of it with the final MVP being a survey that's focused on health and medical and physical therapy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so next. So hello, we are the flight year team. My name is Roger.
I'm Veronica Todd.
I'm Cassie.
And I'm Ellen. Our mentor is Paul Wins. It's his birthday today, so he's not here right now. Our advisor is Dr. Andrew, and of course, our teaching team is Rachel, Rich, and Austin. So our original problem sponsor is Lieutenant Colonel Uli from MCAS HMH 466. So the original problem statement is right over there. It's the most important parts are the bullet parts: helicopter pilots and enlisted aircrew, lighter flight gear, more mobility. The most important thing that caught our eye was design a lighter ergonomic loading and safety equipment. So timeline. So throughout this entire project, I like to believe that we had 4 different phases. Phase 1, which is our initial thoughts and idea to the problem statement. Phase 2 was military bases. Phase 3 was our biggest pivot. And phase 4 is final, the future. What exactly did you want to do with this project? So initial thoughts. So on a problem statement, I organized a little bit easier to make it better to understand. But the biggest issue we had based on this diagram is that we read our problem statement, we were confused, we tried to put it together, we read our problem statement again, we were still confused. We had a lot of questions, like, oh, helicopter pilots and enlisted aircrew, how are they different? We had no idea. I never did anything military related. Were they different people? I wasn't sure. Something else, they said design lighting gear. I'm a mechanical engineering major. I'm like, cool, technical stuff. CAD, is that what they want? And we wouldn't really share. So mission model canvas, so the most important things that you can probably see is that our mission model canvas is very populated with gear, very technical stuff. Mission budget and cost, research and development of improved flight gear. Mission accomplished in my practice, lighter flight gear. Key resources, data regarding the flight gear. So our MVP at the very beginning was, what do they want? Better flight gear. So that's exactly what we kind of thought about. So week 3 was a very important week because that's where we had our very initial interviews, and we still decided to run with, they want better flight gear, so let's give them better flight gear. And we talked with some interviews, the most important thing that we learned was 2 things were heavy. The helmet, especially the night vision goggles, and the survival vest. Those are the most important things that we learned. They see in our MVP in the top right, we wanted to focus on a better helmet and survival vest. Of course, something that Veronica thought about was maybe it's not a mechanical issue or a technical issue, maybe it's related to the training. So that's something that we were interested in exploring. And another great thing is that we actually got to visit the base, and as Alan mentioned in the video, that was also one of the highs of this class, was we actually got to step on base, talk to the pilots, talk to the aircrew. These are some cool pictures that we took, helmet, night vision goggles, the survival vest. We did ask them about the, and I became thought, how about a pre-flight stretch? And of course, we kind of got laughed at, and we noticed that they're like, oh, like, I just want to sleep. Like, there's lookout times, like, oh, like, I just want to, like stretch, I really have enough time in the day. Like, they kind of just, like, laughed at it. We also talked to some amazing people. We got to learn a little bit more about the differences between the helicopter pilots and the aircrew, especially with the gunner's belt, is that, the pilot is sitting down on the seat. You don't have to worry about getting blasted off, flown off the helicopter. The aircrew might be when they're kind of walking around. We learned a lot of terms, so you notice that even though this is a technical issue, there's a lot of problems involved. We learned about tactical dehydration, especially with regards to women's clothing, because it's a lot different. They have to wear a 2-piece suit instead of a 1-piece suit. Yeah, and of course, our MVP, the biggest thing that we changed is that during this time, we decided to switch from flight gear to started thinking about another aspect of it, which was the approval process, especially with PMA 202. And that slowly, as you notice that throughout our journey, we started thinking of this less as a technical issue and more as a non-technical issue.
Which leads us back to the first time we went to NAS-NI. We learned by doing multiple interviews and going through a long meeting with an AMSO, an Aero Medical Safety Officer, that the problem was physical. And we had to figure out how to collect that data in a way that was neutrally collected, but able to be used as a backup to NAVAIR in order for us to help them achieve their goals of new flight gear. So their pains were about the injuries that they couldn't report, because if they reported, it would ground them from flying. That they weren't encouraged to use chiropractic or acupuncture while it might have been available. It wasn't an encouraged culture to go do yoga in the middle of the day or go get acupuncture during lunch. So we found that the military has more of a reactive medical care rather than a proactive medical care, and it's a concern for this particular career. So the gains came down to us deciding to do a value proposition that comes back to the flight gear being mended by a survey, and that's it.
So after the 2 base visits, the issue as well as the possible causal issue has been a little bit clearer to us. So that's why we changed our problem statement to reduce the fatigue and long-term health impact, but to more specific back and neck pain issue of the helicopter pilots and aircrew majorly led by helmets and survival vests. So recall that we said that in week 5 we are transitioning from a change to flight gear ourselves to a survey that can help provide third-party analysis to causal issue and potential
to the issue. So exactly how would we do is that we keep doing interviews and grab up the issue and identify in this process not necessarily about flight gear into our survey. So we were going to interview Chef Letsky from Division Chef of Flight Equipment, and what we learned about the survival vests is there are actually 3 major types of survival vests. And the same with the newest version of survival vest that is no longer as tailored to specific as it was before. And along with the help of Professor Jinian from UCSC ESC department, here our MVP starts to form and evolving. So essentially, to help to quantify the data we collect, instead of using qualitative question, we use quantitative question, like how much do you agree with the statement? And each statement is an exact issue that has been identified in the previous interviews. And to increase credibility and reduce concerns, what we do is we make the survey completely anonymous and we add those statements of purpose and privacy notice. And again, from the info we get from landscape, we add a question that asks participants to specify the survival vest they have more, and let them answer a question like how much they do agree with that the tailorability could be an issue. And it was at this point that we become more clear on how can we deploy our MVP and how do we get buy-in from our sponsors to bring values to them. So essentially what we do is that this third-party survey we created can help provide data for the formal request and the measure that has submitted by our sponsor to help it being passed by Navier for a possible change of flight gear, or alternatively, it could be that the other issue we have identified during this process being proved true, and an alternative solution we have identified being shown to Navier that could lead to another future changes. However, as you know, in the following week, our beneficiaries are becoming more and more busy, but we are going to interview a real important person here who is a previous physical therapist in the Navy. And here we get the medical and cultural aspect of a problem, where we learn that pilots and aircraft actually have different common pains, and those pains are also depends on type of aircraft they flew. What's more important thing we are confirmed is that pilots and aircrew are less tend to report the pain than, for example, a guy in maintenance team, because they would undergo a movement screen whenever they reached out to a physical therapy. If they didn't pass it, or they're given certain medications that stop them from flying, there could be grounding, it could be loss of special pay, and essentially it all comes down that our problem could be a culture issue. And at the same time, we also learned that there are actually common preventive exercise that has been proven to work to relieve the pain in the Air Force, so that again bring our medical aspect that our next MVP could be a policy that increases knowledge of preventive care and something like that. So again, based on all the knowledge we learned from interview or survey involving, we ask questions related to how many flight hours they have, type of aircraft they flew, as well as the question about how willing are they to reach out to a physical therapy if they get injured to relieve the pain. So again, here's what we learn in all these progresses. Not only we learn how to develop a solution using MVP, VPC, using survey, how to get buy-in and support, but more importantly, we learned that our issue is not only a mechanical issue, but it's also about medical and cultural issue.
So as for final remarks, basically what we highlight here is that the beneficiaries are still people from the helicopter squadron command officers, such as Lieutenant Colonel Early, people from the Miramar base, as well as NASNY. And our end goal with this is basically reduce problems with what would be chronic pain, highlighting back and neck pain, which is a trend that we have been finding out in many of the officers, or crew members as well as pilots throughout our many interviews as well. And as for the MVP, as my peers have been describing, it has been a feedback loop in which we have been adding more and more information that could allow us to eventually represent this ongoing investigation as a third party, members that could provide information on how background information such as biometrics, their active duty time, the activities they perform, as well as the aircraft they fly in, influence in this chronic pain problems as well, the type of flight gear they use, and in that we make reference to the evaluation of the flight gear they're currently using. Do they like their vest? How long do they use it? Is it comfortable? Is it ergonomic? Blah, 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 right? Also, as a third part of our survey section, we involve health and safety, what kind of pains they have, the environmental factors they have been submitted to, the physical therapies they have also been going under, if they choose to go to yoga, if they use if they prefer to have physical therapies on base, out of base, etc. So as a general purpose here, we try to enlist as many factors possible for us to determine, okay, this number of people are experiencing this pain and they have been subjected under these factors, such that we can identify those trends and eventually contribute to the ongoing proposals to expedite the process of getting either better equipment or new equipment as well. And currently, we're just working with people from the United States Navy as well as the United States Marine Corps. However, this survey can be further tailored for us to be able to reach either to more branches, for example, the U.S. Army, the Air Force, or the Coast Guard as well. And that for us would mean reaching out to more people and getting more data. Currently, the survey deployment we have been thinking, which is a further actions for this project, is to send this people to send this to over 3K people and have at least 1/3 of the answers back, so that we can have around 10,000 responses, and we can start initiating our analysis based on this kind of information we get out of this. Plan of action basically would be deploying the survey, getting data, making a report, and sending this report for further evaluation and a feedback process, so that this report can help out the current findings in the DoD. And basically that would be pretty much. I appreciate your time and thank you.
Going into it, I was really excited. It was a slow start, but we were just figuring out our team's mission and letting our creativity blossom.
Yeah, so it was very exciting in the beginning. We were very eager to, use all these tools such as AI and create this product. But at the same time, there was some confusion because we were like, market research. I thought we were building.
Well, the first few weeks kind of sucked. I was confused why we were doing so much market research when I thought we would be developing a product.
It took us nearly half quarter just to reach our sponsor in DC. So we really didn't know what we were doing for a very long time.
For a while, we were really trying to figure out what we wanted to do. It was at the March Air Reserve base that things really went crazy for us. The visit to the March Air Base was such a critical moment for us. First of all, it was the very first time that we were actually meeting the National Guard people and the Air Force people. We also got to see all the tools that they were using in person, and we finally had something that was actually viable for us to make something of value.
Yeah, the airbase was awesome, and we got so much great information. Then we got even more information a few days later because Sean went to the Pentagon without us.
We went down so many rabbit holes. We were interviewing people about how to work with data, VR, AR capabilities, even firefighting.
Finally, we were just like, okay, we have to stop. We need to focus. Search and rescue seemed like the best choice for us, and so we decided that's where we want to help. That's where we can help right now.
So we realized that our starting place was to help incident awareness during search and rescue operations. And additionally, we realized that drones, videos, photography, they were not being used to their full potential.
But we didn't want to just build a better video analyzer. We wanted to build a better way to do search and rescue.
Introducing
Caesar, the critical awareness engine for search and rescue.
Caesar. All right. So when we started, we were in the dark, and we kind of just had this idea that the National Guard Bureau needed a common operating picture, whatever that meant. And it was a really daunting challenge to us going in, as the video showed. But it was really interesting to us because we wanted to make something with AI, something that would take in data. And so we had to narrow our focus down and get some interviews done. So we ended up talking to 46 stakeholders, 32 of which were actual interviews conducted. Now for introductions, I'm Sean Bowser. I'm a fourth-year mathematics student.
I'm Adrian Rosen. I'm a first-year computer science student. I'm Arjun. I'm a first-year MBA student.
Hi, I'm Hub Singh. I'm a first-year data science student.
Hey, I'm a first-year math econ student. And our mentor Marcos is proud.
All right, so our first original hypothesis was that in order for Caesar to integrate data streams, which means ways that data can get input and go places, we need a complex system to handle different data types. Oh, and by the way, Caesar is the name we came up with. What I'm talking about is the product we thought we would develop back in week 1. Now, it turned out that hypothesis was actually false. We realized we could just build an API to agnostically take in data, which is a big fancy word that means the type of data doesn't matter. So it doesn't have to be as complex as it seems. And so now we were doing a lot of research into search and rescue. What kind of data do we need to take in? What kind of uses is it going to be used for? Search and rescue is a really, really big world. It spans ocean rescues, oceanic warfare rescues, which are separate, mountain rescue, fire rescue, overseas rescue, and wildland rescue. And each of them, they're all their own specializations. But furthermore, rescuers, they work under the National Guard, and the National Guard is also separated by state. So rescuers in Colorado are very different from rescuers in California in the way they do things. We learned that when we interviewed Chief Warrant Officer 3rd Class Clayton Horney, all the way in Colorado, before we decided we needed to narrow our scope to California. And when we did that, we started interviewing William Wade and Sheriff's Deputy Jared Cheney. And they helped us narrow our project down. So week 2, we had this really big broad picture of what we were looking for. And then by week 6, we got to narrow it down more to a more specific project with March Air Force Base. But it really wasn't until about last week when we interviewed Cheney that we got to figure out what exactly we needed to do. And that was because he gave us practical applications of data. He told us that if we focus on drone information, which is what we got at March Air Force Base, that's not very effective for things like mountain rescue, where there's a lot of trees. If you take a drone from above, that's just gonna see a bunch of leaves. It's not gonna see anyone who's stuck under those trees. But if you use something like that for a beach or a desert, then drone overhead video works really, really well. So feedback like that is how we figured out just how complex and just how we're gonna figure out what we need to do.
Yeah, so like Aiden said, we were kind of all over the place when we first started. So this is actually our first week's MMC. And if you look at like some of the places like our key activities, our key resources, and the beneficiaries, if you actually pay attention, it's kind of nonsense. So yeah, basically our key activities, we really misunderstood like what an MMC was supposed to be. We thought it was like what we're going to be doing, like what the product's going to be doing, not what the team is going to be doing, which probably is what it should have been. But a couple of things that we really did very good on the channel, like our deployment was probably the thing we spent the least amount of time on. It was right on the money. Like it's literally the final deployment strategy is the web-based interface and data sharing mechanism. Like it's really, really like perfect. Yeah, our value proposition and our deployment strategy were basically the good things. I've been really kind to us and said there are only 3 bad things, but basically the rest of it was all garbage. But that's how we developed our first MVP. And keep in mind, this is our first week. We really didn't have a good idea of what an MVP should be. The word minimum is hard to comprehend. But yeah, so we went saying, yeah, like data sources, going into an ingestion engine, coming out, dashboard, prop. And at this point, we hadn't even spoken to our problem sponsor yet. And so this was really shooting in the dark. For the first couple of weeks, that's how we went along. We were like looking up stuff on the internet, trying to understand how this world works, trying to understand what incident awareness is. And it took maybe in week 4 when we finally got in touch with our problem sponsor, got connected to go to the March Air Base, and yeah, suddenly it was like a huge flood of information, meetings, interviews, way too many acronyms. Veronica said so too. Yeah, it's just a lot. We got to see how the actual UAVs work, how the March Air Base is using it for current firefighting, how they're using it to predict how wildfires are spreading in California today. It's an amazing project that really kind of showcased the potential for how these like new technologies could be used in a way domestically and not just to quote one of the commanders to blow people up. But something that we also learned through this journey was that we could actually contribute in a real way. Some of the people on site were really excited to talk to us as students, which we thought, you know, there's a bunch of like first years in their team, and so we really didn't know how much of an impact we could make. But then one of the public affairs officers actually came up to me and said, you know, hey, can we go like take a walk? And I'm the only Indian on our team, it's a bunch of Americans. I'm on an airbase, and we're walking down like a dark hallway. I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't have followed him. We get to a room with a little camera and a little light, American flag. And he just wanted an interview about like what we're trying to do. And he was really interested in learning about how we could contribute. He really wanted to have highlights on this, you know, how the Air Force is really encouraging student participation, how we can get involved and really make change, really have innovative ideas, come to light, move fast, get the Army on, like, you know, get the NGB involved, and have like almost a cross-military approach to this problem. And so we learned a lot from that. As you may have heard before, Sean went to the Pentagon just with Marcos. None of us got to go. But he did send us back a lot of information. And so suddenly we were inundated with all this data. We understood more about what kind of problems they're facing in the real world, what kind of problems first responders are facing, what kind of problems our problem sponsor faces in his daily life, and yeah, how we could actually go about solving it. But the other really nice thing that we learned was these are just regular people. We're on a Discord chat with them now. They play video games with us. Like, it's been a great journey so far.
So yeah, a big problem so far is that when people have to go through video footage, it has to be someone sitting at a computer, scrolling through hours and hours of footage just to like find one person in that little speck. And Caesar is a system that automatically conducts video analysis for the users. So instead of having to go through all that manually, it will just pinpoint exactly where it is and show it. And additionally, it will be a dashboard that takes video feeds and processes them in almost live time and then push it right back out to whoever needs it or requests it. And currently we're trying to work with computer vision deep learning models in order to recognize people such as a person standing near the top of a mountain. And in order to keep this customer base, we're going to be integrating multiple data feeds together, because usually search and rescue missions, they don't just come from one data feed. You don't just get one video. It comes from geospatial data, or it comes from Google Maps if you need to query for traffic, and even SAR topo. And we want to be able to take all these different data feeds and integrate it into one common operating picture so that someone on a search and rescue mission can just get information just like that. And additionally,
we have been trying to integrate ATAC into this, the Android Tactical Awareness Kit, because they already have a lot of great plugins that would be very useful to speed up this development. In order to grow this product, we thought that a lot of these tools can be used for things outside of the military as well. And even in the military, it could be used for things such as urban search and rescue, sea, and even international operations. And organizations such as local fire departments will also benefit from things such as increased incident awareness in search and rescue operations. These are the key partners that we are working with so far. With the Ogden Air Logistics Complex, that is where the 518th Software Engineering Squadron is stationed, and they will be helping us with development and deployment of this product. Michael Wisniewski from the National Guard Bureau, he's the person who brought all of this together and pitched the problem to us and provided us this opportunity. And the 163rd Attack Wing is where a fleet of MQ-9s is stationed, and they're the main people we have been in contact with. Down there, the Cal Guard and the Colorado Search and Rescue are two possible organizations that we will be developing our product with and getting feedback from them, as they are the ones who will be ultimately using this. This is a diagram of our 3-year financial operations timeline. So in the first year, most of it will just be user market research, proof of concept, prototyping. The funds won't be very excessive for this, but as the years goes by, we will be expanding this project, and the funds required to support this will grow and grow.
We got it this time. Okay. Over the past 10 weeks, we've had the tremendous opportunity of working with this problem set. And through interviewing potential beneficiaries, we've learned a lot about. Dang, I broke it. Oh, okay. We learned about what our problem is, how we plan to tackle it. So I wanted to highlight, our potential beneficiaries. We narrowed it down from, looking at the entire National Guard Bureau and the entire Army National Guard to California National Guard search and rescue teams. We've been able to know what our product now looks like. We've hopefully integrating into ATAC and the other platforms that search and rescue teams are using right now. And with resources, not looking at every technology out there, we're looking at specific video feeds, specific APIs that we are going to be using. With the mission accomplishment, we want to be able to use a quantifiable metric to be able to understand what our product, hopefully, success, what would that look like? And the next slide is what Caesar looks like. On the left, you can see that video feeds from UAVs such as MQ-9s look like, to which the video feeds we wish to gain from the Cal National Guard. In the middle, at a very high level, is the critical awareness engine for search and rescue, Caesar, to which users will be able to interact with by uploading videos or other kinds of data such as infrared, which Caesar will be able to do automatic analysis on, using machine learning capabilities to highlight, where a potential missing person is, to highlight, in the future, if we end up working with fire, where fire lines are. To the right, Caesar will be able to output to specific, incident commanders that will be using this dashboard and integrating to their existing systems such as, ATAC and Sartopo. So on the bottom, if they do not integrate into existing systems, we would be able to output specific video feeds, right, from, the thousands of video sources that we'll be getting. And for example, if the video feeds are not specifically highlighting what's relevant to their specific mission, they can also go in and change or edit the specific video feed to what they currently need for the mission.
So right now, it's just an idea, but we have a really great team and a lot of partners that have been working with us on this project, and we hope that by next quarter, this can turn into something real, or an actual working prototype that we can get in the hands of people and use it to enhance the incident awareness of so many of these teams that are in need of this tool and save lives. And that's what we hope for next quarter. Moving forward, we're really thankful to be working with all of our key partners. Big thank you to all the teaching staff, Rich, Rachel, and our team mentor, Marcos, and all of our key partners at the National Guard and the Cal State Guard, all the Project Thea people watching, and that's all. Thank you.
Of Marine Corps Aviation Squadrons at Marine Corps Air Station Myanmar. Our beneficiaries clarified the problem. Then we concluded that we should approach the issues from software standpoint to provide filters in software like this. However, our focus.
After speaking to the tool room personnel at Marine Heavy Helicopter Squadron 466, or HMH 466, we were told how the ordering of new tools involves a lot of authorization processes and long wait times. They didn't understand how a toolbox could take up to a year to be shipped to them, but they suspected it was because of unnecessary middlemen. Because of this information, our MEP shifted to policy change involving reducing the amount of people needed to authorize a tool order. But after the next few interviews, our plans changed again.
After talking with BMM 165 and Lieutenant Colonel Bossart and Major Ryan, we realized that our were too broad and we need to get more specific. Through these interviews, we realized that with proper training, the issues that the squadrons were facing could be helped. We decided to reach out to outside companies such as Bellfly, but realized that we needed even more information to understand what it is that the squadrons actually needed to help them face these maintenance training issues.
After speaking with Marine Aviation Logistics, or MAL-16, we were told that the biggest pain points were the paperwork process to fill out warranty reports and the ordering process from the manufacturers. Building the facilities to support assembly on base would take a very long time and be too expensive. Since going through the manufacturer is still the fastest and most cost-effective method, we propose an app that would autofill warranty reports after a minimum amount of information is provided to make it easier to order tools months in advance. This would improve aircraft readiness among HMH squadrons since they would not be hindered by broken and worn tools or the ordering process.
Alright, we are a team to pursue it, and before we begin talking about our project, we'd like to give special thanks to our sponsors, Marines in Marine Air Group 16, our mentor Jun Kim, our faculty advisor Dr. Nadir Ravel, and our beneficiaries who provided valuable information and feedback. Alright, I'm Jun Kyo. I'm a second year political science international relations major.
I'm Playha, College of Science and Design.
I'm Ricardo. I'm a fourth year computer science major.
All right, so let me briefly explain our problem sponsors. Our problem sponsors include Marine Air Group 16, or MAG-16, and its squadrons, including Marine Heavy Helicopter Squadron 466, or HMH 466, and Marine Medium Tilt Rotor Squadron 165, or VMM 165. Specifically, we have two pictures of the aircraft used by MAG-16. On the left, we have CH-53E Super Stallion Heavy Transport Helicopter, maintained by Marine Heavy Helicopter Squadron 466, or HMH 466. And on the right, we have V-22 Osprey Tilt Rotors, maintained by VMM 165. This is the initial problem statement that we received from the Marines. And here we have a lot of acronyms. We have words such as common hand tools, calibrated tools, and the support equipment being in disrepair, shortage, and out of calibration, while also mentioning no training or education. When we first received this problem statement, we were largely lost and confused, as it involved many different aspects of maintenance and many different issues. Thus, we decided to focus on the most important essence of the problem and decided to fix the problem from there. So we were able to narrow down the problem into this current problem statement. The HMH squadrons of MAX 16 need better tool availability in order to avoid work stoppages. And throughout the following slides, we'll explain the details of how to achieve this goal.
This is a brief overview of our thinking of the solution for how we were going to present it. So initially we thought we would go with a digital inventory, and this would just keep track of where the tools were and in what condition they were in when they returned. However, after a few interviews, we realized that is a bigger problem and that we need to shift to policy. But this is a very broad solution that would include also reducing the middlemen and training. However, after more interviews, we decided to focus in more on training. And then finally, we were able to realize that the biggest pain points were in auto-filled reports, which is what we finalized on.
All right, I will briefly discuss our initial MVP, or minimum viable product that we had. So our initial MVP focused on developing a software program that would be able to hold marine maintainers accountable. And that's why we introduced a program of scores. Basically, scores are given from other maintenance crews who receive the tool from a former user. Basically, if the tool is in a bad shape, they would be able to give bad score to the former user and hold Marines accountable. Of course, we developed our mission model canvas, or MMC, based on this. And to be very honest, we were very lost in its initial stage. Thus, we clearly lacked understanding of the genuine issue of the problem. Thus, we only focused on software development, and you can clearly see words such as beta testers, contract developers, web, server, and experts in web/app development. And we were quite unsure whether to how to connect this issue to actually fix the problem. And that's when we started to change our focus after on-base interview.
As mentioned before, during week 4, we had this broad solution of policy changes that would include bureaucracy changes and training. And we came to this conclusion after doing our mission model canvas. However, we also shifted the thinking after this. Throughout our process, we also wanted to make sure that we knew what success looked like for the different groups that were involved. So for example, it was very broad in that for senior military, they wanted for aircraft readiness and mission successes. But for the tool room squadron, they didn't want to get yelled at, and they wanted people that were checking out the tools to comply.
All right, during week 7, or right before week 7, we talked to VMM 165, and we asked them how they were doing with their tool room, and they introduced the idea of a maintenance training program that was originally canceled, but they were able to salvage some of the training modules from, and that's what they've been using for their tool rooms and their maintenance personnel. So we thought we could incorporate that to other squadrons in MAX 16. And we talked to the director of UCSD's Makerspace, David Lesser, who's right upstairs. And he was able to give us an idea of how we could format our training program, including short videos from 15 to 30 minutes, followed by on-hands training. And we thought using the maintenance and the aircraft companies that provide these aircrafts for them, such as Sikorsky and Bell Flight, we would have a system where if they had a question during actual maintenance, they would ask higher trained personnel, or they would contact the training staff. So during our week 6 mission model canvas, we kind of based all of this around a training course. And as you can see, we kind of wanted the manufacturing companies to be our main key partners. And we were given, the feedback we were given based on this made us realize we needed more information and to talk to more people in order to really see if we needed training or if we were just in love with this so much that we didn't want to let it go in favor for other possible solutions. And also, as you can see, there's not really much to go off of. It may look like a mess because it really was. We needed some more insight on how to organize our mission model canvas. So we went to office hours with Rich, and he was able to give us insight and teach us until we truly understood how to organize this. Potential development strategies. Like we said before, we wanted to do, everything was based on policy and training. So we wanted to introduce this new training. We needed the manpower, we needed the money, we needed all the backing from the different companies, but we realized that this, after that this was not going to be enough. After talking with June Kim, our mentor, and after talking with Rich once again during office hours, we realized we were missing a vital vital piece of the puzzle in our interviews, and that was contacting Marine Aviation Logistics Squadron 16, or MAL 16, because they were the ones who were overseeing the maintenance processes in MAG 16. And so with help from June Kim, our mentor, she was able to get us in contact with the customer support branch, who are in charge of ordering all the tools and giving them to the squadrons, the tool rooms from the squadrons. When we interviewed, right before we interviewed MAL 16 CSB, we interviewed HMH 462, and we came to the realization that the tool rooms and MALs did not have a lot of communication between them. The HMHs and actually all the tool rooms that we had talked to were saying that the turnaround was the problem when they ordered tools and they were sent to be manufactured, that the people who were dealing with them were the Navy. And when we talked to MALs and asked them about that, everyone that worked there kind of looked at each other with a very confusing look and told us that the Navy never touches them, the orders, unless it's calibration. And so me and my friend Apnam, who went to base to talk to them, kind of looked at each other and kind of read each other's minds. Well, we're back to square one. And thanks to them, we were able to get more information, particularly about this document right here, the broken or worn tool report. And they told us that this was an underutilized resource. It can be used to, if we fill it out in advance, it can be used to order a new tool months in advance, but for some reason they were having trouble communicating the use of this to the other tool rooms. And so we came up with the idea of this software program that takes the MAL's historical data, uses it to create an average lifespan of a tool. You feed that into the software program and it'll create a timer. Once that time limit is up, that will mean that the tool is starting to show signs of wear, and it'll autofill a worn tool report with all of the basic data that is needed. And once that is printed, that is needed for the tool room is to sign. They give it to MALs and they order a new tool based on their report. And as the cycle continues over and over, the average lifespan of the tool will get more concise and the time limit will become better for showing signs of wear. And so this is our final mission model canvas. Thanks to Rich, it's a lot cleaner than the past 8 weeks, I would say. And so we were able to narrow the key partners down to MAL 16 and a company that we would need to pick up the application development. Our beneficiaries would be the squadrons from MAG 16, including the VMN squadrons and the HMH squadrons who we talked to, and we found out that this could be applied to every single one of them. And then our plans for the future, we want to continue this for next quarter. I had talked to Lieutenant Colonel Early yesterday, and he liked the idea, and he was already giving me feedback and suggestions to add on to it. So thank you. And we want to continue this next quarter to bring it to more higher ranking officials, spread this throughout the different squadrons and possibly other bases.
Well, team, good job. I know you spent a lot of time and effort into the videos and presentation. You know what the next deliverables are. You need to make sure your blog and the log match the numbers and make sure there are insights there. And then we'll be meeting with each of you on Friday, and it'll be like a Shark Tank environment where you pitch to us, you know, why you want to continue next quarter, what are your plans. So I'm going to probably go into the closing, and thank you again for the audience and for being here. I know it's a valuable time that you're taking for daily duties to come see us, so thank you. So I'm going to ask Alex and Jim, if you're still online, would you please come off the mute and say a few words? So I want to introduce you to Alex Gallo, who's Executive Director for Culminating Project, who owns the Hacking for Defense brand, and Jim Santa is the new Director of the Curriculum.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So Alex just dropped off. We're over here on the East Coast, but I just want to first say to all the student teams, you know, I was there for getting to watch the teams a few weeks ago, and seeing the progress that all of you have made has been tremendous. And, you know, having taught this class for a long time now, the one thing that always there's a few factors that always play into why student teams are successful. The first thing is students that actually care and want to work hard and do their best to work in this domain and to figure out what's going on in these spaces. And every single team, every one of you committed yourselves to that mission. So congratulations to all of you for your hard work, first and foremost. So round of applause for me for that, because I know how difficult this course is and how much you pour your heart and soul into all of this. So kudos to all of you. Wonderful work. The next thing I want to also say from thank you is to all the project sponsors and the mentors. That is the second most important piece, if there's one A, B, and C, to success in this course. And having sponsors and mentors that are actively engaged with what's going on with these student teams is going to be a do or die in so many different ways. So seeing the students who are able to go on to do site visits and be able to go and get really integrated with what's going on in these environments, that type of experience that students have cannot be replicated in any other academic setting. So the fact that you jumped in there outside of your normal day-to-day duties to provide that support to the students is tremendous. And you know, I thank you for all of that, because it means the world for me as an educator, but also knowing that the students having people in their corner that are not necessarily in front of the classroom. And last but certainly not least is to the teaching team. This is a difficult class to teach for a lot of different reasons. Being in the feedback mode, being it very, to borrow words from a meeting that Rachel and I had last week, it's a very egalitarian process. We treat ourselves different in these course rooms. And there's a lot of vulnerability that happens from the students and the teaching team in order for this to be a successful process. And it's evident to me the brilliance that's been displayed by the teaching team there. So every single element's necessary to have a successful H4 class, everything was present this semester. And it's wonderful to see the progress that you've all made. And I just want to congratulate everybody on an incredible quarter. Well done. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to seeing everything else you accomplish professionally and academically in the future. Kudos.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
I think Rich wants to speak. Before we stop though, I want everybody to just give a round of applause to Austin.
I'm thankful for all of you guys too. I'm impressed by the work you put in. I hope all of you are proud for the progress that you've made throughout the quarter. I look forward to seeing how you guys grow next quarter, because I'll still be here. For those who don't return, I know you'll do great things anyways. So give yourself a round of applause too.
person between
All right.
Liberty and here.
That's right. Okay, so I promised you guys when we first met, speaking of the students, you would learn several things through this course. You would get effing frustrated, right, along the way. I believe we've delivered on both of those promises, true? I also promise you, you would learn something about national security that will change the way that you look at things moving forward, right? And at some point you would buy in. It happened at a different time for all of you. Some of you bought in at the free pizza, and then some of you bought in about 5 days ago, right? So it's been very cool. You validated an experiment that Rachel and I have been doing out here for a while now. We've both been associated with this program for several years. The UCSD has a very interesting approach to this. In partnering locally to my Marine family, thank you for taking a risk with this. I know you all, and I know that this is always, every time you open the aperture of the base, or every time you open the gates, so every time you open the squadron, you run a risk, right? Hopefully we return a bit on that investment of your time, and each of these folks, if they want to move forward, that's the model that we're working on here in partnership. So, Gio, thank you for your partnership and all this. Gio, thank you for your time and access. 165, love what you guys are doing, all right? You guys have been great. You aren't my kids, but you are my people, all right? So if you need anything moving forward, we're looking forward to this next quarter. The UCSD team, all our sponsors, mentors. I know you've given us a run for our money, but I think this has been a good one. So thank you.
So this is the closing. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next quarter.